Good afternoon, and welcome to UCEA Google Plus Hangouts on Air. This is Angel Nash, and I'm a graduate research assistant and doctoral student at UCEA headquarters at the University of Virginia. I'm here today to interview Dr. Samantha M. Paredes-Scribner as a part of her candidacy for the UCEA Executive Committee. Today, listeners will be hearing from Dr. Samantha M. Paredes-Scribner, whose research and teaching focus on the organizational and political dynamics within and around urban K-12 schools, the policy context of these dynamics, and the consequences of leadership practices within and around such schools for various constituents of urban school communities. Dr. Scribner intentionally situates her work in urban and urban fringe schools attended by high percentages of ethno-linguistically and racially diverse students and families. In July 2015, Paredes-Scribner assumed the directorship of the Center for Urban Multicultural Education at IUPUI. She has published in Educational Administration Quarterly, Journal of School Leadership, Leadership and Policy in Schools, and the Journal of Cases in Educational Leadership. Prior to taking her faculty position at IU School of Education at IUPUI, Dr. Scribner was the director of the P20 Alliance at the University of California, Riverside, where she facilitated and negotiated P20 partnerships in the Inland Empire, Riverside and San Bernardino County. She was a bilingual education ESL and reading middle school teacher and administrator in Austin Independent School District in Austin, Texas, where she won teaching awards and later became an administrator at LBJ High School. Welcome, Dr. Paredes-Scribner. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Great. Let's begin with the first question. Please tell us about your background and your scholarship as it relates to your leadership preparation and practice.
Sure. Well, as you said, I started out professionally as a bilingual middle school teacher and then became a high school administrator in Austin. And then I went to University of California, Riverside to work on my PhD in institutional leadership and policy studies. I studied with Rado Gala there. And upon graduating, I took a initial position as a P16 or P20 Alliance, I think it was called by the time I left, which was a initiative through the University of California system to develop alliances across K-12, community college, and the four-year higher ed programs with Cal State and University of California to, smooth those pipelines into the university systems. I took my first academic position here at IU School of Education at IUPUI and got to continue the scholarship that I started as a graduate student on organizational leadership. Again, as you mentioned in my bio, focusing in particular in and around urban schools, which sort of tied to my own professional experience as a teacher and an administrator. I've been mostly interested, I guess you could characterize it as sort of both asking the question and also documenting the evidence of what counts as leadership in these schools. So everything from teacher leadership, community leadership, principal, school leadership, what are the actions and influential activities that these constituencies enact in order to, both within and outside schools, in order to influence the goals and activities in ways that impact opportunities, educative opportunities for students and families. Lately, this focus has returned again to my roots in the education profession for myself in terms of working very closely with schools that serve Latino immigrant families in particular and community organizations that support immigrant youth and their families. All of this work sort of always inherently takes for me a political, cultural, and ethical perspective in terms of looking again at what are people doing to support educational opportunities for these students and support sort of healthy, sustainable, educative school settings. I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you. You have served for several years as plenary session representatives. Tell us about your engagement in UCEA's governance.
Well, I would say that as a PSR representing the IU School of Education, I have hopefully fulfilled my role as a good PSR plenum session rep in terms of providing input, participating in all the governance activities that are required of the PSRs, communicating with my own program faculty, and providing input on initiatives that we're asked to provide input on by the UCEA Executive Committee, providing input to the organization about our own preparation programs, and answering questions about sort of what our interests and concerns are about what preparation programs need and are doing well and could do better. So I think that about sums it up, I think.
All right, great, thank you. And what other ways have you been engaged in UCEA?
Well, I've been fortunate in that sense. Several years ago, I did spent several years as the feature editor for the UCEA Review, and that was a great experience as a junior faculty member, as an assistant professor, to sort of be able to get firsthand experience on hearing what some of the real concerns are of the organization, and get to participate in that, in getting that quarterly publication out to the membership. I also served as a planning committee member when the UCEA's convention was held in Indianapolis, and that was an extremely rewarding experience. I would say probably it exceeded expectations in terms of the hard work of developing the program, provided a great opportunity to really see what people in the membership were doing in terms of their research. And that became really exciting. And I think that really was a pivotal moment in terms of my own engagement in the workings of the organization. And then I guess most recently, I've had the honor of working with a couple other colleagues from other UCEA institutions in authoring a chapter in an upcoming UCEA handbook. So that has also been an important experience for me in terms of participating in one of the many ways that UCEA tries to communicate sort of what's happening in the landscape for both its own membership as well as for other constituents and policymakers.
Thank you. Will you discuss with us, great. Will you discuss with us your scholarship, research projects, teaching, and/or service that can inform the work of UCEA, particularly the work of the Executive Committee?
Sure. I think you mentioned in my bio that most recently I assumed a directorship of the Center for Urban and Multicultural Education at IUPUI. And in that capacity, I hope to sort of redirect this center to focus on leadership, educational leadership broadly, again, to include teacher leadership, formal, principal leadership, district leadership, but also community and youth leadership in terms of how these relationships and networks are cultivated to influence both practice as well as policies at the local and in the wider policy arena. So I think that my experience and my work that has produced some of my research as well as some of my service in terms of just developing partnership with organizations whose interests align in terms of advocating for urban students and schools and the communities that they serve. I do think that my work and my service and my service locally, but also service with organizations like the Politics of Ed Association has informed my stance around the unique demands of in urban settings, but also the unique opportunities in terms of leadership development and and the particular work that is required in terms of preparation of leaders and partnership work across many arenas.
Thank you.
Welcome. Will
you share the reasons why you have chosen to run for executive committee and your vision for the future of UCEA?
Sure. I think over time I've learned, I started coming to UCEA, I think it was Albuquerque, many years ago as a graduate student with one of my mentors, Dr. Flora Ortiz. And over the years, I've really learned and seen the value of UCEA's role in the field, both in developing, graduate students and being both an outlet for the leadership preparation programs and their faculty, but also their role in the policy arena. I want to be a part of this, of continuing this work, and both, again, in the policy arena and with preparation programs. And but I also want to bring to the committee this particular focus on the opportunities in urban schools and the opportunities for really conceiving of leadership more broadly and centering these questions of ethics and politics and culture from an institutional perspective. So I hope that, I think I'm sort of at a point in my career where I think I can contribute, and I look forward to the opportunities to do so in many ways, and this would be just one of them, in terms of contributing to the development of broader networks and just of a form of leadership that reflects sort of the environment and the needs of particularly, again, urban schools. I think that sums it up.
Thank you for your time and thoughtful responses, Dr. Paredes-Scribner. This interview will be archived on the UCEA Google Plus page and the UCEA YouTube channel. Listeners can access or share the interview at any time. We also encourage listeners to post comments and questions on this interview in the comments section of the UCEA Google Plus page. Goodbye from UVA, Dr. Paredes-Scribner.
Thank you so much, Angel. I appreciate the time.
My pleasure. We look forward to seeing you at convention in San Diego.
I'll be there.